From the campus of Xavier University, WBOK Go and Equity Media Station.
I'm Doug Davis with 4 things you should know with BIN News. Black New York Attorney General Letitia James is being accused of mortgage fraud. She's accused of falsifying records for favorable loans on a Virginia property in 2023. No charges have been filed. Black Mayor Brandon Johnson criticized President Trump's threats to cut federal funding to Chicago, calling them terrorism and refusing to negotiate. Trump plans to strip sanctuary cities of aid, putting over $4 billion in Chicago grants at risk. A UCLA survey shows 49% of Los Angeles residents disapprove of Mayor Karen Bass, who is black, while 34% view her favorability. Her popularity has declined since the January wildfires and the firing of Fire Chief Kristen Crowley. And the NBA play-in tournament resumes tonight. The winners of the games on Friday will be the 8th seed in their respective conferences. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
It's now time for Let's Elevate, the Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Filko and Carey Grant.
Good evening, everyone. This is Carey Grant.
And this is Arnie Filko. Carey and I are separated tonight physically, but we are with you together on WBOK. It's Elevated Conversations. Carey, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great tonight. I'm having a good day. Everything's beautiful.
Yeah, what a day weather-wise.
Yeah,
Goodness,
it really was nice.
Low humidity and, 78, 80 degrees. Beautiful. I want to bottle this and keep it for like the next 5 months.
Yeah, that would be
I don't
great.
think that's going to be possible.
No, I think next week we're going to get back to our 80 degrees. Yeah.
I know. Well, you got to take the good and the bad, and the bad is that for the next, 4 months or so, 5 months, it's not so good. But once we get to October, it's really good. So we'll do some sacrifice in order to get to that good weather. Well, Carey,
yes.
I was all set tonight to talk about some light stuff. We're going to talk about Joe Dumars and the Pelicans, the draft, and hopefully we can get to some of that. But it seems like in New Orleans, we said this last night, literally every couple hours
there's a change in the news.
There's some change in the news. And in this case, it's local. And you just heard a discussion on Gerard's show about the New Orleans Walk of Fame. So I want to comment a little bit about that because I think it's an interesting topic. It raises all kinds of questions. So let me try to preview it for just a second here.
Sure.
Apparently there was a request to the New Orleans City Council of $500,000 coming out of Wisner Trust money in order to fund the Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
And the council, and I'm not, this wasn't maybe it was the full council. I don't think so. I think it was a committee perhaps, but I'm not sure about that. But certain members of the council, did their due diligence and asked questions. And, we just heard on this station, Council Member Green from District D. And I have to say, I think Eugene and the council did exactly what they should be doing, which is to, find out more about the project, inquire, ask the questions, and then go from there. To be honest, the article that, at least in NOLA.com, that appeared a couple hours ago, probably raises more questions than it provides answers. From my standpoint, I'd like to know what is the overall total budget of a project like this, not just a $500,000 request, but where does the rest of the money come from? What private dollars, besides those being honored, what private dollars are in this project?
Right.
Why would you seek Wisner funds? Because my understanding of Wisner is that the Wisner Trust money, which has been an issue for literally since I was on the city council 2 decades ago. There is an injunction right now that prevents use of Wisner money
Right.
unless the council and the court approves expenditures.
Right.
So why Wisner as a source of funding? And I think, Councilmember Green, Councilmember King was referenced.
Yes.
I mean, they asked the absolute right questions, which is, tell us more about this project. Tell us who's going to be honored. What's the process of being honored? What's the cost of being honored, which came out today. Apparently it cost $35,000
Right.
in order for one to be on the Walk of Fame. But, look, the council member's right. I mean, the council is the guardian of the public money. I mean, they are charged both legally under the city charter and, morally by the people that voted for them to ensure that public monies are well spent. And as nice as this project might be, and it might be a great project, I also don't want to opine one way or the other. You do have to ask the questions of what's the total, financial package? What does it look like?
Yes.
Et cetera, et cetera. And then, I thought the council member brought up a valid point, which is, out in California and Hollywood, when they honor somebody, it costs $75,000 apparently,
Right.
To get that honor. And here they're charging $35,000. I also have a bit of a problem with that. I mean, we are a city where there's a lot of people that I think probably would be very deserving of this, but a lot of people that can't afford, $35,000 in order to be honored. So
Yes.
I don't know, Carey, your thought. It's an interesting topic. It just came up literally today, and I'm really glad Gerard brought it up. I'm glad Councilmember Green joined in the show, and to be honest, maybe, and I'm going to lead into another topic with garbage contracts in a minute here, but it just seems to be another issue where the council is involved in. They're at odds, it appears, with the administration. I don't really know the role of Master P. It says he's the architect.
Yes.
Is he putting money up? How much has he put up for this project? There's a lot of unanswered questions, I guess.
Yeah, it opens up a lot of Pandora's boxes. The first one I'll answer as best I can is that the 35,000. I think the council's point of view, and I said this before privately about this issue, was some of the legends that we would put on the street. I mean, some of them, their families don't even live here, or there's nobody, no heirs or anything like that. So who's paying that $35,000? The idea that people can participate in saying these are people who should be honored for $250 that you have to put in just to put a name in is another thing. And some of the other people, like you said, some people who should be honored, really, I mean, we shouldn't put the burden on them or their families or even their supporters to say, we're going to, you hurry up and raise $35,000 for Professor Longhair to be put on, on the star on the street or whatever it is on the street. That's the issue. The second piece that I saw was very interesting was Master P was on television this morning, literally saying that all the money, all the $6.5 million for the whole thing is in hand. He's raised the money. He has the money. And then it begs the question of, well, why did your group go to the city council and ask for $500,000? So, so what was that all about? And as you said, ultimately, the only thing about Wisner that works in this is that Wisner is pretty flexible when it's been used. But as you said, because there's so much of a dispute about Wisner, just asking the question means court and a whole lot of other things. Even if this was the greatest project in the city of New Orleans, it would be a problem. So there's all of those factors. But I'm kind of with you on this one, Arnie. It seems like the council was asking some due diligence questions about the project itself, and it seemed like there was a lot of unanswered questions that are not clear. And one thing I'd say also as a former budget person is if there's a $6.5 million set aside for a project that's going to be capital development on the city street, be nice to see those books and see where that money's being held, what bank it's in or whatever.
Yeah, I think all of those are really valid. Look, the city council has committees. I mean, one of its committees
Yes.
is an economic development committee. I presume that a project like this would fall under that. Um, these are some very basic questions. What is the total cost of this project? How much has been raised? If in fact Master P has raised that level of funding, then let's know it. Let's know where it is. You're right. It should be shouldn't be any surprise in that. Why would you come and ask for wisdom money if you've already raised those dollars? What is the committee that's making these decisions on the honorees, and what's the criteria? As you said, there's a lot of people from the past that would deserve to be honored that are no longer here. And, their families, whether in New Orleans or not in New Orleans, may not have the financial wherewithal, to be able to support an honoree, a family member. So I think it'd be important, very important, that some of that be somewhat transparent. They're
right.
I understand that you may have to go behind closed doors when you make selections, but you got to have a little bit more transparency when you're asking for public funds. I think that's the most basic thing.
Yeah,
and again, there was a reference in the media article that, or at least Master P referenced this, that he claimed that the reason the council's not moving it forward is because they want to fund, the school board issue, the $20 million that they're trying to give to NOPS. Well, number one, this is my opinion.
Yes.
Okay, I agree with that. We should be taking care of our kids and NOPS before we're worrying about a Walk of Fame. That would be my personal opinion.
Right.
But number two, the council is doing exactly what they should be doing, which is before you approve a public expenditure, make sure you know exactly what the details are, what the project looks like, and make sure every question is answered. And in many cases, if there needs to be public input before you take a vote, there's nothing wrong with that either.
Right. And the issue of that is very moot if you're asking for it from the Wisner Fund, which has nothing to do with the funds that would be used for the school system. That's the first piece. But the second piece is, as I understand how it works in California, is that the Walk of Fame, it's very expensive, but that expense also goes towards the maintaining of it, because there's lots of stars on the boulevards in Hollywood. And I'm kind of concerned about, as typical with New Orleans, we build things and we make things, but we don't look forward to the maintenance of those things. So you can't just put down these placards or whatever they are and never, do anything about that. Is that $35,000 per part of the ongoing maintenance of making sure these things are clean and, worth seeing and that type of thing over the years? I mean, there's a lot of holes here to me that just aren't clear.
Well, this is an issue we deal with a lot of New Orleans projects is, we build it and sometimes they fall into disrepair. I know I can speak personally to this because in the Ninth Ward Stadium, that is the question asked by every potential donor.
Right.
Is how we can be assured. So on a project like this, I would like to know how much money will be put into escrow. How much will be available every year to maintain a project like this. So it looks good. And I think we can learn from a project literally steps away, which is the aquarium. They've got different bricks, honoring people that supported the aquarium.
Right. And,
that seems to be a project that's been in place for a number of years and is maintained properly. So again, lots of questions about this. And I think more than anything, I just wanted to, I don't agree with, I don't know Master P, but I don't agree with them on this issue.
Yeah.
I don't think the council is holding back money intentionally because they want to hurt the mayor or because they want to give it to the school system. I think they're holding it back because there's a lot of questions. And, as a former council member, I think Councilmember Green and Councilmember King and other members of the council, that were willing to raise the questions and not yet take action until they get some answers to it. And I'm sure there will be another opportunity and another hearing, for the project organizers to come forward.
There's one thing about New Orleans is it seems like before we go to what government and what functions of different branches of government are, we go to the conspiracy theory first. And I don't think this is at all the conspiracy theory. I think it's what you said. It's just the council kind of doing their jobs and saying, you're asking for money from us, but, now you're saying that it's a problem. So we just heard this yesterday, and it's a problem already. So that's very interesting.
In New Orleans, sometimes we do have conspiracy. Okay?
Absolutely, and sometimes they're real.
There's legitimate concern of conspiracy sometimes, but on this one, I don't see it. I don't see there's some effort behind the scenes to kill a project because Mayor Cantrell likes it or Master P likes it. I really don't. I see a project that has a lot of questions that need some answers, and once the answers come, then the council can make informed decisions for the benefit of the community and move forward.
Right.
This is a good segue. I don't know if do we want to take a break, Carey? Because I want to talk about another piece of news that broke this afternoon involving the garbage contracts in the French Quarter. Should we take a break quick, or you want to keep going?
I think we have about 2 minutes before the break.
Okay. Well, let me just say, for those that may not have heard the news yet this afternoon, Mayor Cantrell has taken steps to terminate IV Waste, which is the company owned by Sidney Torres.
Yes.
They have taken steps to cancel the 1-year emergency contract, which was awarded last December and had an end date of December 2025.
Right.
The contract provided for a 90-day termination provision. So the mayor has exercised that, and the termination of this contract will be effective on July 30. Already, this is setting up again as another battle between the mayor and the city council.
Yes.
And we'll talk a little bit more in depth about this, but the one comment that really resonated with me is Councilmember King, who represents District C. That's whose district the quarter is in. And he said he had basically no knowledge of this decision being made. And I'm just going to start there, because that cannot happen in our government. It cannot happen that one branch of government makes a unilateral decision without at least consulting the council member whose job it is to represent that district. I mean, that's not fair. It's not right. It's not appropriate. So now you've got a situation where the council member does not support this, at least initially. I am sure you are going to have a lot of council members that are going to raise their eyebrows on this, and I think my guess is we're going to be back to the same fight that we've had. And full disclosure, we're going to talk about this issue. One of the owners of WBLK, Troy Henry, who is a friend and also the person who was awarded by the mayor the full contract, multi-year contract. Troy is an owner of the station, so full disclosure, I want to bring that out. But let's get into this a little bit deeper, because I think it raises some questions that have to be, again, asked and answered here. And in my mind, it raises one really big problem, and I'll talk about that once we come back from break.
Yeah, we'll take a break. We'll take a short break right now, and we'll be right back.
Norman Robinson is back.
Can you hear me now?
And he's taking no prisoners.
Can you hear me now?
Each weekday, Norman Robinson brings you commentary with Off the Top.
The incident was shocking, disturbing, disgusting, disappointing, and sad.
Each weekday, Off the Top with Norman Robinson is heard exclusively right here.
It's Off the Top with Norman Robinson on WBOK 1230 AM.
On the next edition of The Way Forward, we continue the Advancing Southeast Louisiana series with a conversation with the Chancellor of Southern University at New Orleans, Dr. James Ammons. Join me on The Way Forward this weekend on WBOK 1230 or streaming live at WBOK1230.com and the Play ODAP. It's The Way Forward with Eddie Francis, Saturday at 3 p.m. on WBOK. What New Orleans is talking about.
Hey, this is D. Riley from the 90s Hits R&B Jams. Make sure you listen to WBOK 1230 AM every Saturday night from 7 until 9 p.m. I'll be giving you the best R&B jams from the 90s. That's right, all your favorites and more. With me, D. Riley, your host of the 90s Hits, right here on WBOK 1230 AM. Or listen online at WBOK1230.com. WBOK, the station you listen to longer.
Hey everybody, it's Graylin Bryant Banks.
And Kimber White Dupree.
From the front porch, y'all. You know how we do every Monday. It's Movie Monday.
And Tuesday is Trivia Tuesday.
And y'all know we have nothing but bad cheering coming through here on Wednesday.
But stick with us. On Thursday, we travel.
That's right. And Friday's Free Your Mind Friday, so get your brass up.
Something on your mind? Want to get it off your chest?
Holla at your people. WBOK 1230 AM, the station you listen to.
All day long.
WBOK. Online at WBOK1230.com.
The Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Philco and Carey Grant.
And we are back. This is the Arnie and Carey Let's Elevate show. Call in if you have anything to add to the conversation or ask about anything at 504-582-9422.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you tonight. These are, the topics we're talking about are important topics for our city. And your thoughts, your opinions are really important to us and important for the rest of the listening audience. So, please call in. We'd love to hear from you. So, Carey, the concern that I have of what has happened today is there's so many unanswered questions still.
Yes.
The council's position, so the mayor's position has been that she has sole and exclusive authority to award a professional services contract like this, and that the council does not have that role.
Yeah.
The council's position is that based upon ordinances passed a few years ago, the council has the right to reject or approve these type of contracts.
Right.
And it is not approved, the multi-year contract with Troy Henry and his company and his subcontractors. At one point, if people will remember 6-7 months ago, there were people that were not supporting the Troy Henry contract because there was a dispute between Troy and the subcontractor, right. Alvin Richards. That matter has been resolved. Those two are together now. So the council's position is, first of all, the council's position is that they retain the authority to approve the Henry contract. Now, that matter went in front of a civil district court judge, Judge Irons, a few months ago. And the judge ruled in favor of the mayor and against the council and said, no, the council does not have authority, only the mayor does. The council then appealed that. All right?
Yes.
And here's the question I have, Carey. That appeal has not been ruled upon yet.
Right.
The media article that I read today states that the ordinances are still in play pending the ruling of the appellate court.
Right.
All right. Now, play this out a little bit. Let's say that the council does not, in the next few months, formally approve the Troy Henry contract.
Right.
All right. And let's assume that the Torres, the Ivy Waste contract, is terminated July 30.
Right.
And then you have this impending appeal that's out there that will decide who gets to make the decision.
Yes.
The council has stated that they're going to take this up in executive session next week at their regular meeting. They'll go into executive session to talk about their legal rights. But it seems to me that, first of all, until the appellate court rules, this matter is still in limbo here.
Right.
Because if the council's right that they have the final say to approve a contract, then it really doesn't matter if the mayor wants the Henry contract or doesn't want the Henry contract. The council has a role. If, in fact, the appellate court rules otherwise, that this is in the mayor's hands, well, then the mayor does have authority. But come end of July, there's no more Torres.
Yeah.
Okay, there's nobody cleaning the French Quarter.
Well,
so go on, Kerry.
Yeah,
Let's try to make some sense of all this.
The big question here is July 1st or July 31st is not that far away. The termination of this contract, you're giving notice now, so that's only a couple of months away. But the answer, as you said, Arnie, is what's the next step? Because if you truly terminate his contract in July, then and there's no resolution on the other contract, and there's no real resolve in how who's going to be the next contractor, or God forbid, if you have to go out to another bid for a multi-year contract, which will take at least 45 to 90 days just to put the bid together again and go through that whole process. You could literally get to that point where all this really came to a head before, where you were very worried about not having any coverage in the French Quarter. So, that's the first resolution, is how is all this supposed to time itself out? And one thing you bring up that's very important.
And Kerry, let me just say, and the most important consideration here is what is going to best provide service to the people of the French Quarter.
Absolutely. That's the
all of the rest of the stuff is kind of political and legal and everything else and contractual, and will be sorted out eventually. But the real question is what is right now in the best interest of the people, that live and work in the quarter.
Yeah, that's very much the underlying theme of all this. But all I'm trying to point out is that because you have a situation where you're in the appellate system, what would be better would be to get the appellate court to rule as soon as possible, so you know where you're going, so everybody knows where they're going and who's on first or whatever. The other problem that you have with this, which is going to be the firestorm that's going to come from this, is obviously a lot of people are enjoying the service. I mean, we just had a French Quarter Festival where it was taken care of pretty well, and afterward, I don't see any aftermath of a lot of trash issues or anything like that. So you're going to have a lot of people in the French Quarter who are very vocal, businesses and otherwise, who are going to really cut up about what's going on, and they're going to want some answers really quickly. I mean, so like you said, they're really going to want some answers very fast.
There's no doubt about that. This has already become a firestorm, and a lot of people in the quarter, like what Torres has done. I mean, I again, out of fairness here, I think there's some things that have got to be resolved. If in fact the contract awarded to Troy Henry is within the purview only of the mayor, number one, and number two, if it was subject to a fair bidding process, and I'm going to come to that in just a second, then it doesn't, in many ways, this is a done deal. I mean, we have to honor the contract, and Mr. Henry and his firm and subcontract would be the group that handles it. The council has raised, two totally different issues. One is that the council has a say in this legally, and the mayor can't unilaterally award that contract. And number two, that there were some issues with the bidding process. And I'm not going to pine on the latter because I'm not involved and don't know enough about what has occurred or not occurred. But it seems to me that the mayor jumped the gun on this. I mean, first of all, I think you got to wait until the appellate court rules, because as we've just stated, it depends. If the appellate court rules in favor of the city council, it puts this whole process, in real limbo in terms of who's cleaning the quarter. And I don't know why they couldn't have waited. The other thing is we're a few months away from having a new mayor.
Right.
Okay. And, my guess is maybe the appellate court will rule tomorrow. I don't know. But, my guess is it may be a while before an appellate court rules on this. I don't know where it is in the process. And, if there's been a briefing of the issue and the hearing, I don't know. We don't know that. That hasn't been brought public yet. But it just seems like this was an issue that did not need to happen the way it did. And, and I want to say this to Mr. Henry, I'm not advocating one way or the other here. I'm only saying that the timing and the process and the uncertainty of the legal claims right now, create a potential problem. And Carey, you are right. I got to tell you, within a day or two, you watch. This is going to be one of the hottest issues in the city.
Absolutely.
Because, there are people already that have spoken up in the quarter that live there, that do work there. Councilmember King has spoken up. He went on record and said that he wanted to see, Ivy Waste have the service until at least December, which is the full length of the 1-year emergency contract that was awarded. So this is going to get really dicey really quick.
Yeah.
And I just want to make one last point here.
Yeah.
We always, not always, but in many, many cases, the issue of race comes up in this city, and especially in the awarding of contracts. I'm urging, let's not do that here. This is not an issue of awarding a contract to an African American prime or one that's not. This is about what does the contract say? Who had the right to authorize it? Was the bidding process appropriate? I mean, there are legal and contractual questions that should govern this issue. We should not be dealing on this topic with the issue of race.
Well, there's two pieces that I'll say, Arnie, that are very interesting about this, about what you just said. I mean, from a underlying theme point of view, people will always try and dollop race or whatever into it, but you're talking about two separate and different contracts. So the contract for the emergency operations is with Sidney Torres should go through December and could have been canceled by a mayor. Mayor has the right to cancel a contract at any point by giving notice, but you could have waited to give notice until November if you wanted to, whenever. But the issue of that is that's one contract, and the other piece we're talking about is a whole other contract that Sidney Torres is not involved in. So there's both things can be true, as people always say, and both situations could be resolved. I just think that you're pushing both of them together in kind of a really fast motion that could cause more problems and will do nothing, as I always say, other than feed some more lawyers, some more money that we claim the city is strapped for, that we'll end up countersuing and suing and countersuing until December or January, like you said, when we have a new mayor, and this will fall in their lap anyway. So it's good.
And I don't, and Carey, I think it's worth saying, I don't think either of the contracting parties have done anything wrong here. I mean,
I think
Torres
was
awarded a 1-year emergency contract, December to December, because we had to, because of the legal challenges that were made to the Troy Henry contract. And while in that interim period, he has done, I think, by everybody's accounts, an outstanding job of keeping the quarter clean. The people like it. We just finished a 4-day festival, and from my observation, the French Quarter was very nice. It was very clean.
Yes.
And I also don't think Troy has done anything wrong here. He bid on a multi-year contract. It's worth a lot.
Yes.
And he thought that he had the support when he did this deal with the mayor. And he's also stuck here in this legal battle of who has the right to do the final say on this.
Yes.
And I can understand how frustrating this has to be to him, because look, he's invested, I'm sure, sizable sums of money, to try to get this up and running.
Yes.
And now you have all of these other machinations. So I'm just so fatigued, and I think the public is as well, of these battles between the executive and the legislative branches of our local government. It's not necessary. There are times where it is, but many times it's not. And, and I just think the public is tired of it. And I think that's going to play out as we get to the elections in a few months.
I think that's one thing. We talked about the elections a bit last night and what people are expecting, what people want to ask about or whatever. This is a very weird issue in a way where I think people are going to ask council member candidates and mayoral candidates, almost like, can we all get along? I mean, just, can you promise me that we're going to have a better relationship? I don't know if you can promise that, but it seems like it's become a bigger issue than it almost needs to be. And it's very much in the front of people's minds because people feel like things never get resolved. There's conflict all the time. There must be 3, 4, 5 lawsuits that are out there on various different things that are floating around. And as I always say, the only people who are getting fed are the lawyers who are working on these lawsuits, and everything else is just up in the air, and people are very frustrated and have a tremendous amount of crisis fatigue in the city. Everything can't be a crisis.
And again, I know sometimes my comments come across as anti-mayor here, and that's really not the intention. People got to recognize that the city council has a responsibility under the charter.
Yes.
It has certain areas it has to protect. It has to oversee. Budget is one of those. Money is one of those.
Yes.
And, when Council President Morell or Moreno, takes a leadership role and says, this is not right. This is not what the law is. And they have to go to court. I mean, there are times you have to do that. I mean, you have to protect, why you were put into office. But I'm speaking more in a general way, given where the city is right now with the loss of population, some of the other stuff. It just seems like every other day there's, a one up on you. And I'll tell you another one today that came up. The mayor's traveling again. Okay.
Yes.
To Washington for a conference. You're going to, I'm sure, hear about members of the council saying this violates, the laws that have been put in place.
Right.
You have the school board education issue still out there. The council has, appropriated $20 million towards the settlement.
Right.
We'll have to see where that one goes. I'll just say this for the benefit of everyone here. New Orleans has so many things on its plate right now, so many important things in moving this city forward. We just got to try as best as we can for the next few months to act in unity as much as possible. And then definitely next winter, 2026, when the new mayor and council take office, I mean, we need a reset here, with them coming together. Maybe they need to go on a retreat, by the way. We did that in my council, and, maybe you need to take a day, go to a hotel, lock yourself in a room, and just talk about how we're going to work together as the two forms of government.
I agree. We have a caller on the line. I'm going to try and see if I can do this. Hello?
Hey, how you doing?
All right. How are you?
This is Brother Al Mims. How you doing?
Hi, Brother Al.
Hey, brother.
Hey,
how are you doing?
Yes. Hey, my brother. How you doing? And thank you for all the things that you've done, But let me say this here. I'm 71 years old. I served on the Pro Board, the late Kathleen Blanco, and I was with the Civil Sheriff Paul Valto for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Can we all get along like you said, man? This thing is ridiculous. I mean, the lawyers making money, and it don't look like we getting anywhere, man. I mean, trash is trash. Somebody got to pick it up.
Right.
We need to find out how we're going to do it. Because let me tell you what it is. The city going apart, man, because there's trash out here,
Yeah.
You walk around and see. So it's not just the trash, but we got to get along. We got to we're getting a new mayor, and and the things that the candidates that's going to be looking for running for mayor, they got to look for what this mayor had messed up and made mistakes, and don't do the same thing. So I'm gonna get off and hey man, listen, all of y'all make a difference. My brother, thank you for all the things that you've done and help me make a better city, man. This city, the village ain't the same, but we got to do better, man. We got to do better. Absolutely. It's all right to have a farmers, but don't fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, agree. Well, brother Al, before you get off, I think a lot of people listen to the station know who you are and what you do, and you have been since I've known you 20 years ago and longer than that. You have been a stalwart for the city.
Thank you for what you have done.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, we want to thank you for what you've done because you put a spotlight on keeping people safe in this community and mentoring young people, and just thank you for doing that because it really does make a difference.
We appreciate
one more thing. If anything should ever happen to me, and I don't know, I'm 71 years old. I don't know, I've been shot at and threatened, but let them know that I want to please God more than man, being afraid. Because a lot of people are talking about they're gonna happen, this gonna happen, but I'm not. I don't feel death, but I'm not afraid, and I'm gonna do what I need to do. Hey man, God bless you, and I love y'all much. Thank you.
Thank
all right,
you
God
so
bless
much.
You. Take care of yourself.
We have another caller, Arnie.
Okay, great.
Hello, Reverend.
Good afternoon, my brothers. How y'all doing?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Enjoying this show. And, of course, you got some most knowledgeable. And I've been listening to you very intently about what's going on with the garbage contracts and how government is working in the city. Now, I think two things is missing. The elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
One is the racism, and nobody want to hear that. And two, the politics, which you talked about. Now, we know, and you mentioned, this is one-up gamesmanship, and it's foolish because the citizens are suffering from the streets to garbage to the economics, taxes, et cetera, et cetera. The citizens are suffering while the mayor and the council play games with our intelligence. Now, of course, the mayor could govern a lot better. But we elected her, and what she's doing, I would imagine she thinks it's the right thing to do. The council, on the other hand, wants to challenge the mayor at every turn, all about politics. And it's unfair to the citizen. Now, let me get to that French Quarter contract. We know how politics in this town work. What's his name? Torres? He got the temporary contract. The time is up. As it stands now, the mayor has a right to cancel it and move to somebody else. The gamesmanship the council played here is to take power away from the mayor. Now, if you want to do that, you have to wait till you turn this city into a city manager type and take away some of the politics of the mayor, or let the mayor use the tools that she have at her hand to best govern this city. Our citizens need to wake up and stop looking to fill their own cup and make sure everybody in the city has something in this cup,
that's
in their
true.
cup.
Yes, that's very good
when
point.
When you talk about crime, we said a long time ago, crime was going to come to the quarter because it's been in the black neighborhoods forever.
Yeah.
And the problem becomes for the average citizen that live within the city limits, regardless of color, crime is killing us. I don't care what the newspapers say, the statistics say, 90% of the people that live here, do they think that the police department is protecting us in this town? Let me go one step further, and then I'm going to get off.
Okay.
The school board. Oh, the city needs to give them that $10,000. They owe them $90,000. And I agree to a point. But while you're looking at that, look at that goddamn school board and see how it's governing.
Sure.
Where is that 25 million,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken? Where that's at?
50.
And
Yeah.
it's
50,
much
actually.
more. And finally, because of the incompetence of the people we elect, especially on that school board, our children are dying. The news says it all day long. And it's not in one or two schools. It's in the vast majority of our schools. And if we keep on busing this generation around the city, you're going to see more turf wars and more group violence. And so with that in mind, stop playing games. Govern this city like you care about the city, like you love the city. And when you do that, what they say, high tide lift all the boats.
Yes.
Give the rest of the boats an opportunity to be lifted. And don't focus on gentrification. Man, y'all doing a good job.
Thank you for your call. Appreciate it.
Well said.
We're going to take a short
and
break.
we'll come back after the break, Carey. I want to address, and I'm sure you do as well, some of Reverend's comments here.
Yes. Thank you.
That's right. It's party time each and every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on WBOK. It's the Throwback Throwdown with DJ Wick as he brings you the best in old school from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2Ks. Plus, the party goes to another level at 9 p.m. with the Throwback Throwdown Party Mix to round out the night. It's the Throwback Throwdown Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m. and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
On last week's From the Press Box to Press Row with Donald Ware.
Christian Ings, NCAA dunk champion.
It all happened so fast, like the crowd went crazy, and I was just like, I just did that. And then when they came across that it was on Get Up, that's when they really like hit me like, yo, you might have did something just now.
Wait a minute, I gotta rewind that back. He said, I may have just done something. You think so, Christian?
I feel like I've done that dunk so many times in my lifetime. Like, I didn't know that it was gonna go that viral. I just like, yeah, I got bounced. I just wanted to show it off. This is my last game act. I gotta give them something.
From the Press Box to Press Row is one of the hottest sports talk shows in the country. Join Donald each week as he takes you on a journey through the world of HBCU sports and pro sports and interviews with top sports and entertainment figures. That's From the Press Box to Press Row.
Fridays on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about.
Sunday Gospel. I am Leo Jackson asking you to tune in every Sunday, 12 noon till 2 p.m. Feel the power of the Holy Spirit moving. Make you want to clap your hands, shout, cry out, glory, hallelujah. Don't miss this program, Sunday Gospel, 12 noon until 2 p.m. every Sunday. Station you listen to all day long.
Come on, let's have a good time. Come on, let's have a good time.
WBOK online at WBOK1230.com.
The Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Philco and Carey Grant.
And we are
all right.
back.
We are back.
Yes.
Carey, let me take a shot at addressing the multiple points that Reverend McCaslin made, because I think they were good points.
Yes, they were.
First of all, yes, the public needs to be number one, number two, number three, number four. I mean, all decisions made, all monetary appropriations need to benefit, the public. So definitely the Reverend is right about that. And so here's the things that I believe in. First of all, I would like to see, and I think you would too, I'd like to see a settlement between the city council and the New Orleans public schools. The only ones that are getting hurt right now are the kids of New Orleans.
Sure.
And I've been told that this fee issue, if it goes to trial or had it gone to trial, I mean, the city could be looking at anywhere upwards of $150 million in liability. They were able to settle for $90 million, $20 million up front, and the rest over time. In my opinion, and the opinion of those that I've spoken with, that's a pretty darn good deal. And I don't understand why the mayor keeps fighting it. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the Reverend is right. that Orleans Parish School Board or NOPS at some point has to, come forward here and say what actually occurred, with this fiscal issue. How did it get to be a $50 million error? And of course, what are the safeguards that have been put in place to make sure it never happened again? I mean, right. I think the public is owed more than we probably know right now.
Yes.
And on the garbage contract, I just want to say this. I'm going to give you a hypothetical that is not implausible. Let's assume that we know what's happened today. Let's assume that the appellate court rules that in favor of the council, so that you do not have an approved contract with Mr. Henry, because the council hasn't approved it. Now, and the mayor has canceled the Torres contract. So tell me on August 1,
right?
Who's picking up garbage?
Yes, that's
and again, I don't know that this is the way it's going to go down, but is it possible right now, sitting here in April, that this is the way that it could happen? Yeah, I think it's very possible.
Yeah, and then you just go back to having another emergency contract, which, could be with anybody at that point, which, it makes no sense. But one thing I want to say, exactly. Arnie, in light of what you just said, but one thing I want people to remember, and the Reverend mentioned it a little bit, but the council versus the mayor, like you said, is kind of a natural thing, especially in a strong mayor government like we have. Somebody like Councilmember King, who's doing exactly what a representative is supposed to do, who represents that district, literally the word representative. He represents the people of that district. He's representing their interests. So him being not at odds with the mayor, but on the opposite side of wanting the contract that seems to be working for his constituents is not a bad thing. That's what he's supposed to be doing. The other piece is that the council versus the mayor, because the council, just like any legislative body in the country, is the appropriation arm. I mean, they're supposed to spend all their time watching the books and making sure that the money's being spent right or things are working well, and that's what they do. They don't execute the things, but they do have the purse strings, as everybody says. So that's their natural job to do that. The sticking point in all this, and maybe some of this is good for the future as well, is to resolve some of these ideas about different ordinances, laws in the charter and the like, about who has what authority. And as I said before, it's probably a good time for these mayoral candidates and in the near future to set up someone to do a new blue ribbon panel. We haven't changed the charter since 1994, to look at the charter again and update some of these gray areas, update some of these things to be very clear. I think the same thing's going to have to happen on the federal level about who's in charge, who's on first at some point, but that's a whole story for another day. But locally, I think we need to resolve a lot of things about parts of the charter where it just says this person shall or may or whatever, and make it clear whose bailiwick this is, whose bailiwick that is, and how things happen. As an aside, just one other thing that is an example of that. The talk about the Inspector General recently about the Ethics Review Board not doing some of their due diligence or whatever happened with that. Make it clear in the charter. Just say point blank, every 6 months this will have to happen. Those things don't have to be ambiguous for 1,000 years and we go through all these court cases.
Well, Carey, you said something just a second ago that's so true. I mean, we've been talking all tonight about city government. I mean, the same issues of Congress versus the executive branch are playing out in Washington, every night, whether it be on immigration or whether it be another topic. And I just want to kind of, before we close tonight, I think the overriding point that Reverend Rick Hasner was making, we're just tired. I mean, the people of New Orleans need help. They need relief. They need better services, better infrastructure. And, there's a lot of really good people in government. I know each of the 7 council members. Yes. Everyone is a good person, and I believe in their heart wants to do good. But the people in every neighborhood right now in New Orleans, need the help of government, need a unified government that's working together for their benefit. And, it just gets a little tiring. And I can understand that as a citizen. Yes. You want to see the city move forward. And sometimes we just get stuck in the mud.
Well, we'll be back tomorrow to talk more about this. And one thing the Reverend said, which is absolutely true, is all rising tide lifts all boats. And that's what we're here to do, is lift up the conversation and hopefully lift all these boats. We'll see you tomorrow.
Everybody have a good night. We'll be back tomorrow night at 6 o'clock.
WBOK